Hi Year 5, we're going to be looking at painting onto our map page. So at this point we've got the tracing, the imprint of your seafaring vessel, and also a compass. Now, I don't mind which colours you use for this painting. I'm going to show you what I would recommend. So, for example, for the boat, I'm going to do, I think, shades of brown, because it kind of makes me think of an oldie worldy, old-fashioned seafaring vessel. So I think of these as being in like shades of brown. So I'm going to mix a dark brown just there. There's my dark brown. And then I might make a slightly lighter brown next to it. Okay, so I've mixed my colours in the lid. And my first step is going to be just to put on some initial lines. Now, you want to keep your watercolours watery, otherwise you won't necessarily see as much of your oil pastel through the paint as you might like. Okay, so I'm going to use the slightly lighter shade up here. So I'm not painting straight from the colour palette, I am mixing in my lid first. Okay, so keeping this watery, I'm going to put in some of my lines here. Now, for a lot of these, actually, they're kind of ropes. So a lot of it is actually, I think I'm going to just leave like a black line. I might go over some just to give it a bit more colour. Now, the sails themselves, I think I'm going to use a white with a little bit of blue highlight on it. Okay, let's just put in some of these. Let's do a darker one here. Okay, I think that'll do for some of those outlines. And then I'm going to take my white. Now, if your white is mucky, like it's got a blue or someone's mixed a red over the top of it, just swipe it with a wet tissue to clear off any colour that you don't want, because white can be very easily corrupted by other colours. So we want to keep it as pure and uncorrupted by other shades and other colours as possible. So I'm going to get quite a lot of white on here. And I am going to paint white straight from the colour block, purely because the pigment is a lot weaker and it kind of needs to stand out a bit more. So I'm not going to dilute my white. I'm going to paint my white straight on. Okay. So there's my sail there. Let's do my other sail here. Another tip when you're painting with white is to have clean water to mix your brush in with, because if your water's yucky, like, I don't know, brown or blue or whatever colour it might be, it will inevitably change the white and give it the pigment of the other colour that's been in the water pot. So try your best to get yourself some clean water before you paint with white. Okay, let's put in one more bit of a sail here. Okay, and then you might remember I mentioned I was going to add a little tiny bit of blue. I'm going to use this dark blue here. I'm going to use a little tiny bit of blue just to add a little bit of a gradient to my white sails. So where the shadow is, you can see it's been done by black lines already. Where the shadow is, I'm just going to put in a little bit of blue, clean my brush, and then just kind of blend it out a little bit. Okay, now this matte paper isn't very thick, so you don't want to overload it with water because it will tear. It will tear a lot more easily than watercolour paper will. Okay, so it's only thin matte paper. So what you might want to do is every now and again, if you feel like it's getting a bit overloaded with water, just drop a tissue on top and then use that to take some of the moisture out of the painting. Okay, so that's that. Now, my compass, I need to pick some colours to go with my compass. Now, I could stick with this same colour palette, and quite often old-fashioned compasses are painted in with shades of brown. I'm trying to think, I haven't even decided. I might go red, I think. Now, like I say, traditionally you probably see this painted in a brown, but I'm going to go for a red. Now, this red is a little bit, has a bit of a purpley pink tinge to it. So once I've mixed it, I'm actually going to add a little bit of orange to warm it up a little bit. All right, so I'm going to, I think, paint the outer rings, and I'm going to gradually dilute the pigment by adding more water. So I'm going to make this a bit more watery in here. So this dilutes it a little bit more. Slightly more dilute in this ring here. And then I'm going to do a technique on the points of the compass where I just paint one side of each spoke. So I'm painting this one, this one, this one. Try and be consistent with the one you paint. So for example, as you look at it, I'm always painting the one on the left. So if we were to keep spinning this round, I'd be painting the one that was furthest left if I were to spin this as I went. Okay, yeah. Okay, and then I think I'm going to make an even more dilute, maybe make it a little bit purpley, and I'm going to put that in the box behind the spokes. Now remember, keeping it dilute means you can see the map details through the paint. If I paint straight from the colour block, the paint will be far too thick and the pigment will be far too concentrated, and we'll lose some of this map detail that we see in the background. So keep your watercolours watery. And then I think I might use a bit of brown actually. So I'm going to come back to the brown that I had originally, just wake it up a little bit with some water. And I'm going to do the little spheres, these little balls here in brown. And then I'm going to do this part behind the compass brown. Okay, there we go. So that's my painted detail. Now, I'm going to let this dry. And then I'm going to carefully cut this out, and I'm going to make an aged piece of paper. I'm going to use brown watercolour paint to make a background for this, but I will show you that in a separate video. So this is the next step for the lesson. Finishing your compass, finishing your boat, whatever it might be, and painting it with watercolours. All right, well done.